Hello, I'm Brandon, and I want to welcome you here to the Tansson Talk Show, where our mission here is to help bring people together. I always love doing this show, and especially going into episode 75. I'm so excited to have my guest here today, Peyton Buckley. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Brandon. I'm so happy to be back, and I'm happy to talk about anything that we can talk about. And I'm really happy to be back on the show. So
Yeah, I'm just so excited to, as I said, have you back on. And so I know the last time we spoke, it was number 14 of, this current version of the show, but now it's number 75. So it's hard to believe how much time has
Ooh.
passed.
It has been. I'm gonna be honest. I don't even remember. Well, when was the last time we spoke? I mean, we spoken off the show and things like that. But the last time we spoke, that was on the show. That was what? November, September?
Okay, so we spoke, let's see. So the last time we spoke was April 11th of 2023.
Oh, it's been an entire year. Woohoo! Yay!
Yeah, I know,
Okay.
and it released at the beginning of May of 2023, and
Yeah.
so it's hard to believe. I mean, it's been a full year since both our recording and it released.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I guess time really does fly.
I know, but overall, Payne, how have you been doing today?
Well, I can't complain. I I mean, I know we're recording this really early, so I did wake up. Not as early as I'm probably going to have to be doing, but I did wake up significantly early. Um, and on top of that, I mean, I actually feel like really good because ever since I've been down in Norfolk again, I kind of haven't had, I guess, as much human contact as I thought I was going to have. So it's really nice to talk to somebody for once now, and have a genuine conversation. So I'm feeling pretty good.
That's amazing. And Peyton, if you're able to do us the honor of, reintroducing yourself for the viewing or listening audience here today.
Right. Yeah. So my name is Peyton Buckley. I am a rising senior at Old Dominion University. I am a member of the Esports broadcast team. I am a member of WODU. I host a radio show on Fridays from 3 to 4 called Buck's Hour, though that won't be starting up again until the beginning of the semester. And then on top of that, I am also, um, let's see, I'm also an avid gamer still, and I am also a cinema and TV productions major. Let's not forget that. If you don't know what that is, basically what it rounds out to is I'm a film major at Old Dominion University, which surprisingly has an interesting and rising film program. So that's pretty good. But yeah, that's who I am in a nutshell.
Well, I love that. And I'm just so excited for us to dive right into this. And so I'm actually going to go ahead and start off by asking about the first thing you mentioned, that being a part of the esports broadcast team. And so how long have you been doing that?
So I got hired on last August. Got hired on as a broadcast technician. For people who don't know what broadcasting technicians do during an esports stream, it kind of varies based on where you're doing it. But for us, we basically controlled the streams. We controlled the cameras, the in-game cameras. We controlled the stream in general. So we controlled where the camera would go. For the stream itself, we would control the different slides. So beginning, ending, casters, in-game footage, things like that. We would also moderate the chat. And on top of that, as well as being a broadcast technician, we would also sometimes do photography for the teams, and we would also do videography for different projects that esports was producing. Um, Later on, that really did develop into becoming a shoutcaster as well. So it was really interesting that as the year progressed, I wasn't only doing broadcasting anymore. I was shoutcasting the games. I was being a commentator, and that really started the one of the games. I don't remember which one it was, but I think it was, if I remember correctly, I think it was Counter Strike, Counter Strike Global Offensive, or CS:GO as it's known. It became what is now known as CS2 or Counter Strike 2, but it originally had started out as CS:GO, and we didn't have any casters for that night, and it was just me and another broadcaster, and we pulled one of the broadcasters, not the broadcaster, we pulled one of the varsity players aside and said, "Hey, you want to broadcast?" And they were like, "Yeah, but I want to broadcast alone." So I was like, "Well, I'll broadcast with you." And the other broadcast technician, I think, was Holly Grace, or HG at the time. She was like, "You sure you think gonna do this?" Like, and I was like, "Yeah, why not?" So I did it. It was my first broadcast, and oh no, it wasn't. Excuse me, I apologize. It wasn't HG. It was Twinasia. Twinasia and I, yeah, she did the stuff behind the stream, and or no, she did the casting with me, and there was someone else that did stuff behind the stream. I think that was HG, and it was really interesting because I had never shoutcast before. I didn't really know the game at the time, but I kind of knew it. And once I did that for the first time, I was like, hey, I actually like this. Like, if I can have somebody I can talk to and work with, and like they give off the same energy that I can, heck, I make a great commentator. I make a great like a really good shoutcaster. So that kind of in turn launched that broadcasting career, and not that broadcasting career, but that shoutcasting career. And it kind of picked up from there. I would do gigs every now and then when we didn't have a shoutcaster, or none of the varsity showed up, or none of the varsity wanted to do it. I would pick it up and I would do it. Now there are some, I would do it based off games. So there are certain games that I know and I can actually commentate, and then there are games that I don't know anything about, and I'm not going to commentate it because I don't, offhand and last minute. If I'm getting thrown into shoutcast, I need to know what the game is. If it's something like League of Legends, then I'm not. I don't know what it like how League of Legends works, so I wouldn't shoutcast it. But yeah, it started off as broadcasting technician, and it turned into broadcasting technician, videography, photography, and shoutcasting. And it uses all the skills that I think I have, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoy working at Esports here at Old Dominion, and I would definitely consider it a profession that I would go into once I graduate from college because it's really fun.
I'm so glad, and I mean, I like how that was able to go from just a thing that you're gonna help out with, into making it like you said. I mean, your own. I mean, little area of expertise there. And had you ever imagined that that was something that you might be interested in?
So yeah, for the broadcasting technician point, yes. I went into film originally, so I'll kind of back it up. I originally went into film because I had experience doing editing, and I had experience doing filming a little bit with YouTube and with Twitch, and kind of being a streamer during the pandemic. Now, while it was short lived, I still had that experience, right? And um, so when it went into broadcasting technician, I was like, I kind of know how this works. I kind of know the gist of it, and I can understand it, and I can get behind it. Now, of course, I've made mistakes while doing it, but that's kind of the learning curve and part of the job. You have to troubleshoot things like that. When it came to shoutcasting, though, it was almost an entirely different realm because it's keeping your audience entertained. It's keeping them entertained. It's keeping them engaged. It's kind of almost at a point being obnoxious and being silly. Not so much, but to a very good extent. Um, and it took that kind of being like doing a little bit of streaming and doing a little bit of YouTubing and kind of having what it like a little bit of experience in shoutcasting, or not even shoutcasting, but just kind of commentating to yourself about a game you're playing, or just communicating with an audience, right? Engagement in general. Um, it it definitely took a lot of like guts, and it takes a lot of my social battery to do it, but I enjoy it because it's fun. And especially if I have, like I said previously, if I have somebody I can engage with, like another shoutcaster, I'm full in. Like, you can see my energy in there. I'm really ready to, like, to kind of quote WWE, I'm ready to rumble. Like, it's gonna be fun. So um yes and no at the same time to that question.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And yeah, and to backtrack a little bit too. So I know you just mentioned that sometimes it takes a bit of your social battery to, I mean, to do the shoutcasting. And so have you had experiences where, I guess that you have started to feel a bit drained while doing it?
Whew. One too many times, probably. There was one time in particular I remember I got I got called. I didn't get called in, but Byron, who's my boss, who's the boss of the, he's the coordinator of esports. He put a call out for shoutcasters, and I wasn't really feeling my greatest, but I was like, you know what? I know the game. Nobody else is really volunteering. I'll do it. Like, I'll step up. I'll put in the time. And that stream, I think, looking back at it, that was probably my worst stream. Not for the fact that it was a bad stream, it was my worst stream because I wasn't 100%. I wasn't even 50%. I was like maybe 30-20%. Like, I was not feeling it. My energy was just drained because my day was very tiring, and I was not I was just totally out of it. But I tried to put in at least a good amount. And I had another shoutcaster, but I'm gonna be honest, that shoutcaster didn't really. I'm not gonna name names, but that shoutcaster didn't really put in the energy either. So I was kind of having to pick it up, and it was, yeah. I know now, looking back at it, self reflection, that when I'm like that, I'm not shoutcasting. Even if if I'm not like, even if I'm not broadcasting that day and I'm letting someone else do it, I shouldn't have volunteered. That was a mistake on my part. I owned up to it, and so now we unfortunately move on from it. But that broadcast is out there, and it kind of makes me think, like, I need to be in that headspace when I'm shoutcasting. Broadcasting, I can be grouchy and things like that because I'm behind the camera. But in front of the camera, you have to have that personality. You have to have that kind of the way it is. So
Yeah, I completely understand, that. And going forward a bit too. So, in addition to, of course, shoutcasting for, for this, and actually, I'm gonna backtrack from that too. So, I know that you had mentioned, that you had the experience, from your own, personal gaming endeavors, of course, with editing, filming, with your Twitch page. I know we spoke about that in our previous discussion last year, but something I meant to ask too is, so is any of that stuff that you did, during the pandemic still available, or had you deleted it since then?
ooh, it is still around. I've kind of I've kind of kept it hidden just a little bit. And that's because I sound a lot squeakier. Back then during the pandemic, I was a squeaker before my voice dropped. Um, and I mean, I still squeak every now and then. I mean, I will be perfectly honest. I still squeak every now and then. I'm still 21. I'm not 25 or anything like that. But at the same time, um, it is still available. It's just I keep it very well hidden, and I don't usually bring it up unless I kind of have to, or I kind of want to. And that's due to the fact that it's bad editing. I was just starting out my editing. Like I had never edited anything before in my life. I was a squeaker, so I sound very young and I sound very silly. And it's games that most people don't find entertaining. Um, so not most people. I will say it is games that some people, a majority of the internet, do not find entertaining. It's that small group that you have to find, that small, conglomerate of people that enjoy those games that you have to find. And when I was doing it, I didn't find it. And so I kind of eventually shut it down because, college was coming. I was becoming a college freshman, not a senior, college freshman. So it was at that point where I was like, you know what, maybe I should stop this. And then when I had to choose a major in college, I was like, what am I good at? And I was like, well, I'm good at streaming. I'm good at video games. I'm good at filming. I'm good at editing. Like I'm good at, being a person. And so I was like, well, you got any film things? And the person was like, yeah, we got some film things, or we got some film degrees. They're not great, but they're film degrees. And I was like, yeah, sure. And then I told my parents, and my parents were, well, they acted like my parents. So I'll give them. I won't say they were. I won't say they were disappointed, but I will say they were very confused in the change of career change, because I went in as a history major, and I guess I decided to myself, besides the other points that I just made, history majors don't make a lot of money. Film majors don't make a lot of money either, but at least it's doing something that I love and that's something that I enjoy and I want to do. So I think they were. I think they were definitely disappointed that it wasn't going to be like a money maker, but they're still. I mean, they are still funding a lot of it, and I'm grateful that they do, because it lets me, do what I love, do what I want to do. So
Well, I'm so glad at least, like I said, that they are, funding most of it, and that they are at least supportive of you doing what you want to do. Yeah, even if it may not be, like you said, like the money maker per se, but I mean, I personally believe that you have to do what you love, because otherwise, I mean, what's the point of going in every day and just doing something that you can't stand?
yeah, no, I 100% agree. Um, yeah,
Yeah, but going forward, yeah, a little bit too. So I know, of course, you mentioned, of course, yeah, shoutcasting, of course, puts you right there in front of the camera. But I know, of course, being with your current major, of course, and with everything else that you do, that's not the only opportunity that you have to have your vision seen or heard, in some cases, quite literally. And so, between your radio show with WODU and, of course, your degree and film club, among other things.
yeah, no, it's a lot. Um, it is a lot of dedication. It's a lot of work, and it's um a lot of the same stuff. It has the same, it's all under the same umbrella of communication, just different ways of doing it. Um, yeah, it's all under the one umbrella, and it's, kind of, I I got this question once, which is, how the heck, can you do all of that, like, at once? Because, you know, in when you think about it, when you think about the other majors, right? When you think about the other majors, you'll never see a cybersecurity major doing engineering, like mechanical engineering. You won't normally see it. If you do, they're really intelligent. Hands down, hats off. Like, they're really intelligent. But in communications, and that's what makes us different. I think that's what makes communications special. you can see a communications major do film or TV, film, radio, advertising. Like, we can branch out. Marketing, even. I mean, I have a couple of classes of marketing under my belt for electives, and I'm pretty good at it. I'm pretty good at marketing something away and talking and, trying and kind of being persuasive. And that's because, to kind of end, like, to put it all together, they're not all that different. Communications is about getting a message out through different means of, well, amplifying your message. So, radio, TV, film, they're all different ways of amplifying the same message, and they are kind of close in how they amplify it. So a film camera isn't that much different than a radio setup. It's just different. It's different buttons. It's different levers. It's different, it's a different form of communication, but it's all intertwined. So that is kind of, I think, answering your question just a little bit of how, how I can do all that stuff is because it's not that hard. It is hard. Don't get me wrong. I take that back. It is hard to juggle it all. But when you come down to the meat and the grind of it, we're our own, like, society. Like, there should be, like, I always make this joke with somebody that there should be a frat just for communication majors. Like, there's no frat for theater. We're just a group, like, there's a group of theater kids, and they're called theater kids because they don't need a frat, because they're that close. Film majors, same way. We are that close to each other. Like, because we work constantly, 10 to 12-hour days being with each other. So we get to know each other really, really well, to the point that it was kind of funny on my advanced filmmaking class. We make one film. And during those 4 days, by day 3, majority of the class didn't know how to talk to each other because we knew we knew basically everything about each other. So it's really hard to talk to each other and, like, find out new information because you know it all, because you're that close to somebody. So yeah, you really get to know people, and it's so close to each other that you can do multiple things at once, and it's not terribly going to drive you apart. Like, you're doing something totally on the other side of the spectrum. You're not. You're doing something that's in the same lane. It's just a different form of amplifying the same thing.
I love that, and I fully agree with that too. And even for our university, for the communication department, we just have so many different sectors, which are all completely different in their own, in their own lanes. But I mean, yeah, what you're saying is just so true. And I did want to, of course, ask a bit too about your time, of course, over this past year, doing your cinema and TV. Production, especially with your advanced filmmaking, your film club. Like, how has everything been for you over this past year, and especially going forward, since you're mentioning too about, like, the community aspect of it?
So this year was great. The first semester, a little bit rough, but there was nothing to complain about that. I was starting to do more film stuff, so I was definitely starting to enjoy myself more, because I was with people that I actually wanted to be with. I wanted to be with film majors, and now I'm with film majors. They're great people. We all have a level of understanding with each other, and if we don't, they all help each other learn. Like, we all help each other learn to an extent. And then spring semester came, and that's when it really kicked off. So I did 2 classes that were definitely more advanced classes, because I would call it advanced classes. Advanced video project and advanced filmmaking. So advanced video project is you make 2 short films. They get selected by the class, they get written by the class, they get produced by the class, or made by the class. And so we made 2 short films, one called Subside, and the other called Four Lifers. Now, for people listening, something that I learned, and this is coming from somebody who has worked with film majors and who has worked with people that are actually in the industry. When you're working with a film major, right? We get our demeanor changes the minute we get on set. You will see that in anybody that does film, TV, or even really radio. Like even radio or podcasting, the minute they get to like what they consider their set or what they consider to be like their kind of where they're going to do their work, there's like a light bulb that just switches on. It's perfect. It's a perfect timing light bulb. And we all just get at it because there's a time crunch usually, but there's also, it's just that we are in that creative mode. We are in that creative zone. We want this to be perfect. And so when I was on set with all these film majors who are also my friends, they didn't like they were still my friends, but like we turned on light bulbs, and it's like a different personality almost entirely. The best example of this is someone that I know and someone that just graduated. Actually MK or Mary Kate, I think is actually her name, but she goes by MK. She is all fun and games until the minute she turns a light bulb on. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I love when she does this, even though I don't show it. I normally don't show that I actually like when she does this, but I do. And it's a great, like watching her do it, watching her work. And that's because she's all chill. She's all very friendly. She has this way about her that the minute she turns that light bulb on, it's just hammering it in and getting it done and being on top of everything. She makes a great first AD, and she makes a great assistant director in general because she's there to get things done. She'd make a great director too, probably. Or like someone else that I worked with, Samuel Moreno. He just graduated as well, class of 2024 as well, with MK. He is a perfect director, and he's also a perfect DP because he is creative. And the minute he turns that on, the minute he turns that brain of his on, he's always working. He's always imagining. He's just phenomenal. He's phenomenal behind the camera. He's phenomenal with directing the actors and what he wants. What he envisions is what is going to get put down on in the screen and on paper. To use an analogy, it's not actually paper, but what he films is what he wants. Or someone else that just graduated, class of 2020, or not class of 2024. Yes, class of 2024, because he graduates in December. Zaire, or Zai, as some people call him. He's really funny. He's really sarcastic. He's a great director. The minute he turns that on, he knows what he wants. He sees that vision in his head as well. And he's great at directing because, for example, when we were doing Four Lifers, which he was the director of, MK handled being first AD. So she was on top of everybody getting in place, doing next scene, moving on, continuing to produce. Zaire, the only thing he had to deal with was dealing with the actors and what he wanted to envision. And if he needed help, he asked for it. But for the most part, he had what was in his head, and he used everybody else like, because we're all tools in a cog machine. He asked us to do certain things, and he was very pleasant about it. He's a great director. I would 100%, if I had, somebody was listening to this that was like in the industry, I would recommend these people to like be certain roles. Even myself, like I make a pretty good producer. I will, award myself that I'm a pretty good producer because I like things. I agree with MK a lot. I like things go smoothly. I like when things are in order. I don't like when things are chaotic. When things are chaotic, I'm at my best when things are chaotic sometimes, even though I don't like it, because I'm very good at improvising. I'm very good at coming up with solutions to problems, and that spans from doing a lot of work in other industries, but it really comes in handy when you're doing this. And I also make a pretty good PA because I'm also good at like I said, I'm really good at improvising, and PAs do a lot of that. They do a lot of improvising. But so that class was great. It was great to work with those people. We had great actors. Some of the actors were even people in the crew. So it was a lot of that. We used ourselves as kind of, backup, not backup, but like background actors. And a lot of a lot of it was really fun, and it was really good to work with those people. When it came to advanced filmmaking, that's different. It's different in the sense that it's not two films, it's one film, and it's a professional grade film. So you're paying professionals to come in and do certain roles, like the DP, like the sound mixer, like the gaffer. We had a professional gaffer, which was great. He was an amazing person. We also had professional actors. And that's because ODU pays for this. They gave us a budget. They gave us a budget of $20,000, which is a lot of money, an insane amount of money, compared to like engineering projects that have a couple of thousand. We had tens of thousands. In any case, it was really great to work with them, and it's great to work with people who are actually in the industry. You learn a lot from them. On top of that, though, it was kind of the same group of people that you had in advanced filmmaking, with a few exceptions. You had the same people from advanced filmmaking, and so you knew that they could work. Like you know how they work because you've been working with them. So it makes a great team. And so, yeah, kind of to sum it all up, both of my semesters were really good. The second semester was amazing because I actually got to work with real people and professional people and even non-professional people that were, like the people that are still trying to learn to be professionals. We all kind of really hit it off. We're all, to me, they're some of my great friends because they kind of get me and like I stick with them. And so, yeah, there are not enough words to describe what it felt like working with these people. I mean, at times it was tough, and I could go into a depth about the annoyance I put up with. But in the end, it's just you're working with people that actually want to work, and that makes all the difference.
I absolutely love that. Yeah, and I just love, being able to hear about, like I said, is the dynamics that you have all together. And yeah, and when you mention about like, yeah, that light bulb, just flipping, instantaneously with the production, I completely, understand that. Because even doing some local like video production myself, yeah, I love all of the amazing people I have a chance to work with. But so I don't know, it's so different being able to speak with someone like, you know hours before the production, and then right when we get to set up, because it's just like we go straight from like, the fun playful, how's
Right.
everything been, to the straight like, okay, we need to move those yellow jackets over there, get this ready, test the camera. It's like light and day there. And so
Oh yeah. No, it 100% is that. And I think that a lot of people really don't understand what it's like. They don't understand what it's like. And this kind of goes back to that. I really think that people they need they need to follow people, and social media really helps with it. They need to follow people from different aspects, different industries, because when you talk to them and you get a sense of what they're actually doing, your mind changes. Like the way you think changes, because now you're not thinking. Uh, I'll use my best example. I do a lot of, as I've previously said, I'm an avid gamer. I do a lot of gaming, and I talk to a lot of people, and I have good friends on the internet, but they aren't film majors. One of them's a farmer. The other one, he's a full-time streamer that lives in Minnesota. And the other one, like she's what am I trying to think of? She is a graphic artist from Canada, from I think it's Ontario or Toronto, I don't remember. And like one of them's all the way out in Iowa, and he just does like minimum. I think he does minimum wage jobs or something like that. I don't entirely know. Like I meet these people and we talk about our daily lives, and your perspective of life changes because your perspective of what they do changes. I've never learned about so much. I've never learned about farming really. I used to love John Deere tractors as a kid. Like they were kid toys and things like that. I never knew the extent that farming is like extensive and like actually like it's down. Like you learn a lot from people you talk to, and it really brings out what it really brings out that sense of, hey, I'm not talking to somebody who maybe doesn't get me. I'm talking to somebody who kind of gets me, but I get them and I understand where they're coming from. And it really does change how you think about the rest of the changes. For me, it's changed my political views. For me, it's changed how I treat people, because now I kind of understand it. I kind of get why people do certain things now. I understand cultures a little better. Like it's done a number to me that I wasn't expecting it to do. So yeah, it being with film majors is one experience, but being with communications in majors, even not just specifically film majors, that's another experience. Being with like all these other people, all these people in like a spectrum, it completely opened my eyes, and now I don't see them so much. I see why they do certain things. I see, for example, why they vote for certain people. I see why they like certain things. I'm not going to say I agree with all of it, but at least I have an understanding now. So maybe I can actually maybe have a conversation with them, maybe change them, right? Maybe I can submit another viewpoint to them and they might accept it. I think if the world did more of that than trying to paint people as bad, if the world did more understanding and the world did more listening, then we wouldn't be in situations we would be in, that we are in right now. It's something really to think about, and I'm going to submit something to everybody that listens to this and watches this. I'm going to submit something to you, and it's something that stuck with me for a very long time. My high school chorus teacher, he goes by the name Mr. Vaughn. I call him Mr. V, because I'm cool like that. But and Eddie said Mr. Vaughn always submitted something to my group of young men that were in a group called Men's Chorale. he always submitted to us this one phrase, which is, you have two ears and one mouth. You need to listen more than you speak. And I never really thought about it. I never really thought about it when in high school. But when I got to college, and throughout my time in college and throughout my experience in life now, I wish I would have taken that advice more seriously. Because now I'm looking back at it. If I had only listened to that person harder, and I only tried to understand and listened more than I used my mouth and decided to blabber on, I might have still been their friend. I might have still been their boyfriend. I might have still had that connection. And I try to do that a lot more now. I try to listen more than I speak. Even though I know inside myself, and this is a flaw of mine, that I like to talk a lot. Like, I insanely like to talk. It's something that I love to do because I love to move my mouth. I love to spew random facts. I love to do this and that. And that kind of plays back into the shoutcasting. It plays back into why I used to like doing streaming, because I like talking. But nowadays, I'm over here being like, maybe I should listen more. Maybe I should listen to what people are actually saying. Maybe I should connect with them more, because it might create more connections that I can use later on, and then I might make the world a better place eventually with time.
I really, I mean, love just how insightful that was, and yeah, I mean, I just really like how you mentioned too that, just the power of listening, and I think that's just such a important, I mean, just an important part of, I mean, our humanity, and something that, I don't know, I feel like we take, for granted too sometimes, because even like right now in the day and age of social media, like, sure, like, you can scroll through Instagram, and see everybody's, thoughts and views and this and that. But sometimes it's that why factor that I think just can't really, be replicated. Being able to actually hear someone's story, I think, is a little bit different than just seeing snippets of it.
Right. No, I agree with that. Something that I would also submit that I found very interesting is, um so I play I play with a game called Red M, which is Red Dead Redemption 2 role play. Um and we get a lot of things that a lot of people on here, a lot of people listening, a lot of people watching, they probably know what it is. It's a troll. We get a lot of trolls. And it's very interesting because we always wonder, and you always have that one reason why trolls do what they do. They do it for clout, they do it for the attention, they do it because they want to do it. They want to get the views, and the views get them the money that they need. And it's a job. It's a job to basically be an asshole to somewhat, like, to other people, right? That it Nobody knows why it's a job. It is. Oh, like that. It's sad. Unfortunately, we have a lot of those in our community. We have a lot of people that just show up and they want to be trolls, and they're trying to emulate their favorite trolling streamer. They're trying to emulate this and that. They're trying to be somebody that they can't, or that they really shouldn't, but they want to do it because they think it's funny. And that's kind of going back to, they didn't listen. They have those two ears, they don't use them. They're just using their mouth. They're using their mouth, and they're not using those two ears to listen to maybe good advice, being like, hey, what are you doing with your life? Like, why are you doing that? why do you need to do that? Like, there are serious questions that I really think that if a therapist sat at somebody that trolls online, if they sat them down and asked them why they did that, I don't think you would have a lot more trolls anymore. Like, you would get rid of like a good 90% of them, because you would make them question, why do I do what I do? Why am I making other people feel bad? Is it because I want to feel good because my life is terrible? Well, maybe I should get off of the internet and maybe go try and work on myself. Try and make myself a better person. I would know. I was a troll. I did trolling for about a year online. I hated it. I hated myself. My life sucked. My life was terrible. And that was in high school. That was like freshman year of high school. It was like, ending of 8th grade, freshman year of high school. I did trolling for a year. I didn't feel good about it. I never felt good about it because I was trying to make myself feel better. And I did it on a kid's game too. Like, that was unexcusable. And I remember that, and I know that, that's why I don't like trolls anymore, because I was one. And I don't really share that with many people because, people come at me and they attack me and they're like, wait, you're a troll? Like, yeah, that was horrible. Like, why? It's because I was basically an online bully. Like, that was not okay. And so, it goes back to that piece of advice. That advice, you have to listen more than you speak. Trolls don't do that. Bullies don't do that. A lot of bad people in the world, they got egos they got to fulfill, and they're scared of when they don't fulfill those egos, the people that they are, in command of, or that they rule a country. Most dictators have egos because they're feared. They're not feared by their people. They're fearful of their people. They don't listen. They don't listen at all to what their people want. They listen to their egos. They listen to their yes men. They listen to this and that. And you can kind of see it even in today American politics. Politicians, they don't listen. If they do listen, well, maybe we wouldn't be in situations that we are in right now. I mean, you could apply that to any single world geopolitic. I'm going to bring up one that's probably very controversial. Israel-Palestine. If Israel listened more than they took action or talked, you might not have the situation that you're in. Maybe not. I don't know. The Israel-Palestine conflict, for example, that brings up a lot of tension. But maybe if they listened, it'd be an interesting conversation. So it's something to think about. And I went on a ramble there. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. You are quite fine, Peyton. And I just really appreciate, like I said, all of your insight that you have, and and everything. And I just think that, especially what you just mentioned, just really help brings all of this, together, from from your streaming to even your knowledge of history, and just being able to, learn to listen, and and appreciate hearing others' messages. And I think even for myself, as a podcaster, I love being able to, to hear so many different thoughts and opinions, and getting to learn, more about others. And it, like you were saying, like with your streaming friends, and even those in your film club, being able to learn, about them and why they do the things they do. Why is their thought process? I think it really helps, bring some additional insight, to you. And I did want to bring this a little bit forward too. So of course I know that, that you host your own radio show now, Buck's Hour, and so I wanted to definitely ask you about that. But I want to add the additional part of saying, how do you bring some of that insightfulness that you've been mentioning over the past few minutes into your radio show?
So, for those who are still listening and watching, I'm gonna reiterate, as Brandon just said, I do host a radio show. It's on WODU. It's from 3 to 4 every Friday, or almost every Friday. I sometimes do skip a week. That's because I'm busy. And I usually try, if I'm not on, you won't hear. Like, let me put it to you this way: you will know my radio show is on if you turn into WODU at 3 p.m. If you don't hear my voice by 3 p.m., I'm not there. So you kind of know that my show is not on. But my show is a talk show. In a sense, it's kind of a hybrid. I play music behind it. It's very much like Mackay Kirkwood's Wireless Wednesdays. But I think it gets, unlike Mackay's, it gets a little bit intense. And it gets intense because we bring topics. We bring up topics, and there's a deeper meaning into each episode. And that is because not all the time, I don't always have a guest. So sometimes it's just music. But when I do have a guest, it gets very serious. And that's because a lot of my guests are teachers. A lot of my guests are students. One of my guests wasn't even a teacher or a student. It was just a random person. And we got into some serious topics. Like, just, family was one of the topics. Film and the meaning of film was another. Like, marketing and how marketing and like the economy is affected by marketing and things like that. Like, there's a lot of serious topics on my show when I have guests on. And I always apply that rule, is I listen more than I talk. I always have to ask questions. But when the speaker's speaking, I try to listen. I try to pick up on what they're talking about and use it. Almost not really against them, but that's kind of the best way to put it, as I kind of use it against them. And I like to bring up and go deeper into that. Because a lot of the times it brings up true feelings. It brings up not something that they're supposed to say, like not even propaganda or something that, the university wants them to say, right? It's something that they just want to say. Like, I've had 3 teachers on. No, 2 teachers, excuse me. I've had 2 teachers on, and both times they were very hesitant to say what they wanted to say. And that's because they were kind of scared of the university. They were kind of scared that they were going to get in trouble for something they wanted to say. And afterwards, they said what they wanted to say in front of me, but not in front of the mic. And so I think that's important, to listen more than you talk, because the importance of those shows like mine and your podcast and this show, Tansson Talks, is so we can bring out those, we can express ourselves, we can ask those tough questions. Because if you don't, then you're letting the university win. You're letting the politicians win. You're letting the people that you're afraid of win. You can't speak your mind. And that isn't good. Fear tactic, that isn't good. Sometimes it's effective and sometimes it works, but it's not good. You need to express that. You need to not be feared by fearful of the university. I wish that those 2 professors, I wish they had said what they said to me after the broadcast. I wish they did. Because maybe that could have enacted a little bit of change in the university. Like, when students talk about the university, like behind closed doors, we have a lot of good ideas, and we all kind of come to the same consensus that the university isn't doing well. Like, ODU needs to change some things. And I wish people would speak up. And I think through the power of that First Amendment right, freedom of the press, radio, your podcast, our films, TV, that's all freedom of expression, freedom of the press. It's good stuff, and it needs to be more emulated, not stuck behind gatekeepers.
That's just such a powerful, message that you have just, delivered. And and I, wholeheartedly know what you mean too about even, going deeper in conversations. And like, I know for me, as you know, like I take so much notes and everything during our discussions because, I mean, I don't know. I think that there's just such a power of asking people like even the simple like how are you doing, because I feel like we don't visit that often, that you know and even just asking people about their own thoughts and everything. I just think there's just such a power in that yeah, to me I just find so fascinating. And just I don't know, I haven't met a lot of people who just really fully comprehend like just how powerful that is. But I like that through this podcast we're able to just tap into it just a little bit and go deeper with that. And I'm so love that for your show that you've been able to do that. And I know of course that you also blend a bit of history into your show as well with some nice history trivia.
Right. So every half an hour. So at the half an hour point of my show, since it is only an hour, I do something called History Fact of the Day. If I could, I would give away tickets for it. I would give away tickets being like, hey, if you know what this is, call in and I might give you tickets. Or text in at this number or something like that. I think Dave, who's the on-air director, I think he was trying to set that up at one point. But a lot of the history facts that I put in, and this is something I really think it's either luck or it's just on brand. They all kind of emanated a little bit with who the guest was, or if there was no guest, it just emanated with like what I was doing, and that always is kind of cool. And I think always doing that history fact at every at the half hour point of my show, it really, I think, it kind of connects people a little bit. And the reason I say that, because it sounds a little corny, but bear with me. It connects people because I feel like a lot of people, when they're listening to that, they're like, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that at all. And most of the facts, they're American history, but some of them, they're not American history at all. I think one of them was about the Magna Carta. Like, that's British history. That's really British history. But a lot of the times you'll hear me on the show say, oh, I didn't know that happened today. That's kind of cool. And the reason is because I never pick the history fact of the day until 5 minutes before it's supposed to happen. So I don't know what fact it's going to be, and I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know when it's going to be. So I don't know the year. I know the day, but I don't know the year. I don't know what it's going to be about. I don't know who it's going to be about. I don't know when it's like there's variables that I don't pick. I think one of them was about like the first national broadcast to the United States by radio by President Eisenhower. I didn't know that was going to happen, but it did. Like that, it just happened to be that Friday, and I had a guest on, and my guest was like, I didn't know that was a thing. And I was like, I didn't know that either, because I didn't know Eisenhower was the first person to do that. Because when you think of radio, you think of the fireside chats by President Roosevelt. But he did it to the nation but Eisenhower did it through like radio, or what? No, it wasn't radio. It was televised. That's what it was. It was television, the first televised broadcast. That's what it was. Because I remember my guest being like, I didn't know that was going to happen. I didn't know it was going to happen either. I didn't know that was today. I didn't know that was a thing. So you learn a lot. I learned a lot through my own radio show. So it's kind of really cool. But it also it connects people, because I really think people don't know that happens. They don't go back and relearn that or rethink about it. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it really is cool. And what I like though is that the example that you used in that about President Eisenhower is that I was listening to the episode and I remember I had messaged you because I was just like, it's like 1955, but yeah, I mean, so it's so fun being able to to listen to that, and I just feel like adding to what you were saying about how sometimes the history fact just correlates with the guests in the discussions. I feel like so many times doing this show that something that the guest has said has just really resonated. It's just like, wow, it's like I needed that right now. And so you just never really know. I mean, it could be a completely random discussion that has no correlation to anything, but then just that one thing, it may not even be in the recording itself, that's just like, oh, it's like I have a clear understanding of maybe this person or the subject or something that's going on right now. And so you just never really know with that. But Peyton, I did want to also, before we begin wrapping this up, I did want to say too, is there anything else that you wanted to to mention while we're speaking here, or have you had anything additionally exciting that we have not spoken about that you want to briefly discuss that's happened over the past year?
Not that I can think of. We did. I'm really hoping that we can. I don't know if people are going to release those 2 films we did for Advanced Video Project or Advanced Filmmaking. I think those will be kept inside the university. Though I do have access to them, I might put them on a private YouTube channel just so I can put them on a portfolio. They're very good. I personally like them. I acted in one of them. I played a Joshua, who was a Southern nerd who sounded like this, but I don't really like talking like this because it sounds like Forrest Gump. But yeah, so that's one. The other one was Subside. That's something I produced. I think that's very good. Hats off to the director Hannah Moore, and then hats off to the DP, which was Samuel Moreno, and hats off to the AD, which is H.G. Bjork. Oh my gosh, it was like a lineup, it was like a lineup in heaven. And then of course you have the Advanced Filmmaking Project, Shroom Soup, that's coming out probably in like December. It's in post right now, so that it's going to take the entire summer for post, but definitely check that out. Let's see. Off the top of my head, that's probably the only 3 things that are really kind of cool. What am I trying to think of? I can't really think of anything else. I'm trying to look around my room, see if I remember anything. Nope, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Well, nevertheless, all of it just sounds so cool and fascinating. And I know we're definitely got to speak offline about some of the amazing stuff that you've been doing over this past year, and just such an insightful conversation. Oh, and come to think of it, and you were also extra in a in a little TV thing a few months ago.
Oh yeah, the college. I forgot what it's called. The college tour. Yeah, so I was an extra for maybe 20 seconds, but it was a pretty fun project. I saw them definitely how they do that professional project. Definitely not what I was thinking they would. I thought it was going to be a bigger crew, but no, they didn't need a bigger crew. They just needed that small crew with that amount of cameras, and I was like, man, that's pretty cool. So they did that. I did that, and that was pretty cool. Um, went to GalaxyCon, which was pretty cool. Um, I've done an insane amount that I'm probably forgetting that I don't even remember. Oh, shout out to the film club. Film club produced, was it two short films. So Honored, which is one, and then I don't remember the other one's name, but it when I saw like the dailies for it, it was insanely good. So really looking forward to that. Um, so shout out to both those films. Go check those out whenever they come out. If you're in the ODU like system, if you're a student here and you want to be part of something and want to make, films, join the film club. Great process. And it's, always we try and help people do what they love, which is making films. And then on top of that, yeah, I can't think of anything else. I'm out of topics.
No, you are all good. Like I said, well, this just brings, like I said, just an amazing, beginning of the close to our discussion, like I said. But thank you so much, Peyton, like I said, for just all the support that you provide. I know, since recording our last episode, I know that you've you asked to come back, and actually, that was before we even finished the discussion, for that matter, last time. But I'm just so glad that we had a chance to speak now, and just thank you so much.
Yeah, no, I'm always happy to come back. I'm always happy to. I love to be being on this show. It lets me definitely express myself, and it lets me kind of talk about things that don't normally and often get said. Um, if I had to, since I know we are winding down, I know you always ask your people for one piece of advice. Since I know how this show works, um, the one piece of advice that I would give, and we've been talking about it and talking about it and talking about it throughout this show, listen more than you talk. That's the only thing that I'm going to say is listen more than you talk. Because if you do that, your life is going to change. You will keep people more in your life if you listen more than you talk. Your views on the world are going to change because you'll finally get to understand people. Not saying you have to accept, not saying you have to welcome or change yourself, but if you understand people and you understand cultures better, then when you get in confrontation with those people, you at least are a little bit more civil. And being civil is better than being violent. Because violence doesn't solve anything. It just adds more violence. And then the fourth thing that goes with that is it makes you a better person. Now, I know some people will say, that's a very Christian value. It's a very religious value. It doesn't have to be religious. I consider myself religious and to an extent, but just in general, if you're better, if you listen more than you talk, you become a better person. And being a better human being is better than being a human being in general. So it definitely does. It does help. And those four things come with listening more. You listen more than you speak. It makes the world a better place, and it hones to the ground the core values of what it really means to be human, and not just being a culture or being this and that.
That's just such a great piece of advice, and like I said, I'm just so thankful, like I said, to be able to hear your story, and And of course, you are always welcome here on the show. But I'm going to actually change it up a little bit on you. So, of course, first of all, yeah, I did want to ask before I say this last part is if there's anywhere that people can, continue hearing your story, where are the best places for them to find you online? If not, that's quite all right as well.
Whew. I've been a little bit more active on I've been a little bit more active on Instagram. So Instagram is definitely the place to kind of find me, I suppose, or connect with me. Um my Instagram is all lowercase CB and excuse me, I think I have some people upstairs that are apparently not happy with me being up so early. Um, but it's CB underscore AMF. I probably need to change that, but it's okay for now. And then that's really the one place that I do like a lot of social media. Most of my other stuff is private, sadly. So
Well, that makes sense. But like I said, but since this is episode 75, I did want to change it just a little to close out this episode. And so I know you've spoken, like I said, greatly about amplifying your message and to listen more than you speak. And so I want to actually ask you, what does it mean for you to tell your story here on the podcast to help close out this milestone episode?
it it feels very I want to say liberating because to tell my story, to tell the stories that need to be told, they don't get brought up to light. They kind of just get buried. They get, sunk down by the weight of an anchor. But they don't need to be. And, I'm not always talking about just myself. I was talking about other people. I was talking about a lot of different events that have happened and things like that. And to talk about those, it's important to talk about those. Um, to not to quote directly, but to kind of indirectly quote one of my favorite comedians, John Oliver. If we don't talk about the hard topics and we don't talk about topics at all, then there aren't going to be any topics to talk about. Because every topic is a hard topic. Every topic is, in some level or manner of speaking, is a topic that is uncomfortable. It's weird. It's something you don't want to bring up. It's something you want to bury with like a 6-foot pole and then bury it 16 feet deep in the ground and forget about it. That's not good. That's not healthy. You need to bring up topics. You need to have that tough conversation because if you do, you listen twice more than you speak, become a better human, and society becomes better. And so those are the 3 important things. And this podcast does a lot. The podcast does 3 of them, all 3 at the same time. And that's what's good about being on this podcast and about being on any form of communication in general, because you need to have that tough conversation.
I love that. Like I said, thank you so much, Peyton, for everything. And for those tuning in, thank you so much, as always, for tuning into the Tansson Talk Show. I always appreciate your support, and this truly just means so much to me. But including this episode 75, thank you so much. And I will see you on the next one as we continue on our mission to bring people together. I'll see you next time. Take care.